Letting you know how long you have for each answer before I pose the question. Okay. Great, you ready? Your first question has an answer of 1 minute, please. Which political leader from the past 50 years, other than Ronald Reagan, would you see as a role model?
That's not fair. Ronald Reagan's my man. From the past 50 years. Well, you know, I'd take William F. Buckley. He wasn't, I don't know if you were limiting it to political leaders or political office holders.
I would say yes, though. Yes, a political leader, if you would.
But he certainly was a political leader,
Okay.
William F. Buckley, and he started the conservative movement as we know it today, founding the National Review and writing about conservative thought at a time when we needed to hear it.
Thank you. You have 1 minute for this answer as well, if you would. Sarah, in what specific ways would you help to support and unite the Republican Party in this district?
Well, I think that you need to get around and make sure that there's a good line of communication with all the county committees. And as a representative of the district, I'd like to go and get around to as many committee meetings as possible and to make sure that we put strong support for local candidates so that the county offices that we have are retained as Republicans and that we expand the ones that we don't have. I think the best way to do that is just to get out and help people. We need to be talking about the issues. We need to be attracting more people to our county meetings. And we need to make sure that we are expressing our views and our ideas to people who have not participated before, so that we are making our party bigger and stronger and continuing to support local and state office holders.
Thanks, Sarah. You have 2 minutes for this answer. Given the 8th District's vulnerability to natural disasters, what will be your approach to funding for FEMA and the Army Corps of Engineers with our current budget crisis?
Well, we have a huge problem on our hands in Washington with the budget crisis. And I mean, that's kind of a difficult question to answer when you don't know the specific kind of disaster that might occur. If you take, for example, the last disaster that occurred with Katrina and the bill that came up, I think it was fair for Boehner to put it on hold and say, let's look at what we have in this bill. What are we funding? It was $60 billion. Is it all going for the right kind of use in helping rebuild that area? Or is it going to, earmarks and other ridiculous projects that don't have anything to do with helping rebuild an area? Now, with respect to the Corps of Engineers, we know how important they are to keeping levees and the river and barge traffic going. I mean, I don't have a very high opinion of them personally, because I think there needs to be some serious change in the Corps of Engineers because there's a lack of accountability. So to me, the question is, we need to reform government at every level, including those 2 programs. And the way to do that is to put some people in Washington who are willing to say no, or to look at projects and make sure that they're cost effective, and not just vote for anything that comes down the line just because it's more money.
2 minutes for this answer, if you would, please. What is your position on reauthorizing the 2008 Farm Bill, which expired September 30th of 2012? Please be specific.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question, because in the U.S. Senate race, I pondered that question quite a bit, and I looked at it, and I took a position against the Farm Bill. And here's why. It's not that I'm against farmers. I'm completely supportive of agriculture and always have been in this state. It's the #1 industry, and we need to be sure that we protect it. There are a lot of other things we should be doing for agriculture. The Farm Bill in itself, though, is primarily the food stamp bill. And so my question is, why are we as Republicans letting people in Washington, other Republicans, hold us hostage on the Farm Bill? It should be divided. 90% of that bill is attributed to food stamps. And that's where all the costs are, not to the Farm Bill, not to programs that could actually help and provide support and a safety net for farmers. Yeah, I don't think that we can do business as usual in Washington, D.C. What we need to do is go in there and have people who are willing to say, hey, wait a minute, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to be blackmailed into voting for another social program in the name of farmers. So if you're looking for somebody who's going to do that, it's not going to be me.
Thank you. 2 minutes for this answer, if you would please, Sarah. How would you support economic development in the 8th district?
Well, I think the way we first started is to get our own fiscal house in order in Washington, D.C. The whole problem right now is an economic problem. And government has a lot to do with that and interfering in the market, creating too many regulations, creating a tax structure that's broken. So where we need to start specifically is in Washington by doing a whole list of things, fixing the budget, balancing the budget. Tax reform is needed, and I personally support lowering the rate and broadening the base. I think we need a moratorium on all rules and regulations in Washington. Congress should pass that, go in and look at every single rule and regulation and see if it's effective, see if it's needed. If it's not, throw it out. The thing that I hear all over the 8th district and all over the state is that people are being killed by these rules and regulations and the additional cost to their businesses and the additional taxes that they have to pay and the cost of just dealing with business. And so people are either getting out of their businesses because they don't want to do it anymore, or they're not hiring the extra people because they can't afford it. And that doesn't even include healthcare. So if government would do what it's supposed to do, which starts with its own budget, meaning balance that budget, fix it, stop spending too much money, provide tax reform, get rid of rules and regulations, and really do it, not just pay lip service to it, then we would have a change in the economy. And that would help the 8th district.
Thank you. This is your last question, and it's a 1-minute answer, please. Washington seems to be in gridlock. When, if ever, do you feel it's okay to compromise?
I will not compromise on conservative principles that I believe in. I think that the gridlock idea is not necessarily accurate. I think there's a lot of things that Republicans could be doing in Washington that they're not doing. Why aren't we providing a list of cuts, specific cuts to President Obama and saying, here's the list of cuts we want. We won't vote to raise the debt limit unless you give us these cuts. Or you could say, here's a balanced budget over 5 years. Do it. Show it to us. Do something proactive to show people and to show President Obama and the Democrats that we actually do have a plan. I think all we do is sit back and let people push us around instead of going out there and taking the initiative and getting done what needs to be done and fighting for it. You can count on me to fight for it.
Okay, Sarah, that is it for the questions, but you have 1.5 minutes for your closing statement whenever you're ready.
Well, I guess I started my opening statement was just to talk a little bit about what I had done previously, because I thought it was important for you all to know that I have been tested under fire. And I think the best way to show that is when you do have to stand up to your own party in spite of the political consequences, and that you're willing to do that. And frankly, I think if we don't send people to Washington who have had that experience and who aren't afraid to say no and who aren't afraid to ruffle some feathers, then you're just going to get the same outcome as before. You're going to get somebody that goes up there and just votes the way they're supposed to, but doesn't do anything. Nothing changes. I won't be that person. I will make change happen. I will fight for what we believe in. We are losing our country. We are losing our freedom, and that is the most important thing. Whether it's gun rights, whether it's property rights, whether it's our future generation of kids who have to be burdened with a $50,000 debt, we're losing our freedom. Those are all the ways the government is taking it away from us. I'm not going to let that happen. And I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure that I fight for you.
Sarah, thank you.
Thank you.
Sarah Steelman.